Anita, good morning. I know, of course, that you are well...
Good afternoon here.
Oh, of course, it's afternoon, sorry, yes, of course, it's 5 hours ahead. I know, of course, that you are well known in the UK and that you have been invited here to visit the Children's Centre. But there are a number of people here in Detroit who would like to understand more about you before your forthcoming trip. Do you mind if I ask you some questions?
Not at all. Fire away, Jules.
Thank you very much. Perhaps you could describe to me your beliefs.
My belief, belief is that I'm here to serve humanity. I'm an instrument of God. And from a very young age, I wanted to heal at the soul level. I really didn't know what that meant, sort of 3-4-year-old wanting to heal at the soul level. But as I sort of grew and studied and researched, I realized that, it was healing emotions to the core level, and that's healing at the soul level, which is the basis of my foundation, the basis of my healing work. I work so I get to the core issue. So the core issue then leads to that soul level healing, and it's all done not through Anita. It's only done through the power of God, the Spirit of God. Anita does nothing. I'm only there to amplify that unconditional love that God has for us.
Well, that's fantastic, and of course I know that you've had many, many years of experience doing what you're doing and helping so many people around the world, but perhaps you could expand a little bit about your experiences.
My experiences, are from children to the elderly. I worked with many, terminally ill to just simple headaches. From the charity's point of view, because I run a charity and we've built hospice centres and we've built orphanages, working with the orphanages and the children in hospitals and institutes has been my biggest experience and the learning curve for me, and it's amplified my work on a one-to-one with my clients. The working with when people have nothing and they show you the love and joy that they have through the most simple things, and the more complex that we are, the more fear gets involved. And what I've learned through my own experience and working with children and orphans is that they are so simple and they don't have that much fear. Now, in my work, which is very energy medicine, is working with the energy, and it's a very holistic approach. No two treatments can ever be the same, because each person is so individual. When a client comes into me, I read the body, I read the aura, and I read their whole energy system. And some people, when they walk in, they're like this, and I know that their mediator needs to be worked on straight away. So it's not just what people say, it's what they don't say that I work with. And I press buttons so more can come out, and we can get to the core issue. There are many, many experiences I've had where we've cured terminally ill illnesses, where we've cured things. They say diabetes there's no cure. We had a lady who got diagnosed with diabetes, and diabetes in her family, she used to call it a killer, that in her words. And she came to us, and we got her onto supplements and essential oils. We changed her diet, so holistic. We worked with Jin-Jitsu, emotional freedom technique, and within 3 months, when she went back to the doctor and had a blood test, there was no diabetes. And 6 years on, there's no diabetes there. So, we've had wonderful results like this, which is there's no words to describe that. There's no words to describe the joy that I get But on the other hand, when somebody has to pass over, then, we give them that, especially in the charity, we give them dignity to pass over. We had a young lad in Romania who had AIDS, and we supported this child, gave him everything that child wanted. And we found that he was sort of at the last days begging for money on the streets. And his whole of his immune system had sort of died, and he was crying black tears. So we picked him up, brought him to a safe place, and we gave him dignity at the time of death. He came out into the kitchen, and there was 3 of us, the 2 people who live in Romania, and myself. The little boy came. He took Joe's hand, then Ron's hand, and then my hand, and then he put his hand on top, and that's how he passed. So we have, it's so beautiful, sad but beautiful to talk about issues like that. Then we have another little baby that I was treating, his grandmother. She had no one to look after the baby, so she brought the baby to the treatment, but the baby was crying every time the baby saw my face. So I held the baby so the baby could look at the grandma. And I was working with the grandmother, playing with the baby, and the baby took my hand and put my hand on his head. After 5-10 minutes, threw my hand away and took my other hand and put my other hand on top of his little head. And I let the baby do what it needed to. And I used to go to Ireland every 3 weeks in those days, because I work in Southern Ireland too. And in the 3 weeks, the baby had a lump, and the lump was gone. And all I did was, the baby put my hand there, So we have sort of miracles like that too. But the experience that I have with my clients, Julian, is that I can do 80% of the work. But the real cure, when you want that real cure, is self-help. And if I have a belief in this world, it's to teach self-help. Because once you have that, destiny is in your hands and your breath. And when we can teach that to people, how to use the breath and the hands, then we have a cure. So 20%, in a session, I get clients to do self-help work during the absence, when they have that sort of weekly or fortnightly sessions. They have that self-help, and that is what really is the cure. Yeah.
I know, of course, you're very much guided by spirit, but perhaps just 2 things before we move on to the next question, and that is, could you just tell the audience a little bit about the countries that you have been to?
I've worked in most of the European countries, from sort of France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Germany, Holland, Croatia, Romania, Kosovo, Albania, and I've also worked in India, because I'm Indian, and Sri Lanka. When the tsunami hit in Thailand, we were able to go out on the eastern coast in Sri Lanka, and we helped about 25 orphanages in the Batticoli and the Trincomalee area, and then in Colombo we drove down back to Colombo, and we helped a lot of children there to restart their homes, restart their lives. Wow. And also heal on the same pathway. Being sort of guided by spirit is that intuition is what really guides me. I never take no for an answer from God or spirit. My faith is not blind, it's total faith. I listen and then I act. And when I'm being told something and I hear in the right ear, I feel in the right side, if I go against that, things don't work for me. So, it's a trial and error thing.
No, of course. And from personal experience, my wife and I know what the terrible destruction that wreaked havoc in Sri Lanka. And right. I know some of the things you did there were incredible. Can I move on for a second? Could you just tell us a little bit about what you do when you have large groups and what experience you've had with large groups of people?
Yeah, large groups. I mean, I've sort of had a workshop from 10 people to 150 people. For me, it's the same, because I get my clients, or the workshop, everyone in the workshop sort of interactive, so they're all working with me. But I do have support if it's over 50, because you need support over 50 people. And I use Jitsu, I use meditation, I use emotional freedom technique, and I teach a lot of self-help. I do teach people to become practitioners. Because I'm credited by AMAT and the Reiki Association in the UK, which is international. But the experience is so individual, Jules, it's difficult to say what people usually have. But if we start a workshop at 10, somebody could come in sort of, bent over with a backache, and they'll leave sort of dancing by 5 o'clock, because they've worked. There's so much energy built up in a workshop that you only have to work maybe 10 minutes with that person to get a real shift, because of the energy that's built up.
Is there a certain number that you feel uncomfortable in dealing with, for example, in numbers in excess of 150? Of course, as long as you have some help.
Jules, 150, 200 is the number I've worked with. That's the number I haven't worked with more than that. I've given talks to a lot bigger numbers, but to do a workshop, I've done to sort of 150, 200, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I know you and I, of course, and my wife have been discussing with you for ages now about coming to Detroit. And of course, as I said earlier, you're coming over. You've been personally invited by the Children's Centre here to come and see them. But perhaps you could just expand a little bit about what you'd like to achieve in America, and more specifically Detroit.
Well, Detroit I'm very passionate about Detroit, because, my passion for and the work of Wayne Dyer. I mean, he's my inspiration, and also Motown music. But I've always been taken to places where, there's a new energy coming in, and I feel Detroit has a new energy coming in now, and it's sort of taking my work forward in Detroit. My basics of my teaching is that, I teach to nurture from the inside out, so I would love to show people of Detroit and Michigan how to sort of be, in their self-development, self-love, how to sort of put themselves first and really nurture themselves from the inside out. That's what I would love to do, take my work to Detroit and really have a transformation on an individual level for each person that comes to see us.
Yeah. Well, we're really looking forward to seeing you. Only a few days I think you're arriving on the 12th, is that right?
12th. That's right.
For 2 weeks as a sort of introductory trip, and of course I know you were here in February, and that's why you've had all these invitations to come back. So really look forward to seeing you. Lots of love, and we'll be talking very soon. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.